What's your biggest regret in life?
My biggest regret was when me and my older brother had an argument and my final words were, "I don't want to see you again." Just an hour before he passed. I wish I would have said I love you one last time, maybe give him one last hug. I'll never forgive myself.
Similar. Not fighting my brother's addiction harder. At one point it was advised to let him hit rock bottom. I never thought it would mean death. I can't tell you how many times it crosses my mind.
I'm old and I'll tell you, the only things that still hit me in the shower are the times I mistreated good people. I only did that a few times, when I was young, but they still bother me decades later. Trying heroin and becoming a full-blown life-crippling drug addict who used anything and everything they could get their hands on to get high.
Probably getting back together with my ex after I broke up with him. We divorced for basically the same reason I broke up with him for. Just happened to be 13 years and 2 kids later. Now I have to find who I was before we got together and it's so much harder. Not staying an extra 5 minutes while my mom was on her deathbed.
I didn't tell more people to go fuck themselves. Instead, I tried to be the peacekeeper. Leaving my daughter's mom for some dumb skank. Getting married to my husband. The years we spent together are not worth the pain I have to live with now. The circumstances of his death and what led to it make me feel as if he never loved me at all. The worst part is his actions caused me to lose all trust. I'm too old and too afraid to enter another relationship because who's to say he won't run off behind another woman? I'm doomed to spend the rest of my years never allowing anyone to get close. He ruined my life. Started smoking when I was 14, in a misguided effort to gain the affections of a 16-year-old girl. She never noticed me, and I shelled out tens of thousands of dollars on an addiction that undoubtedly drove a number of actual romantic prospects away, until I finally managed to quit for good.
My sister was on the list for a heart transplant. On my last visit with her, I took her out to eat. Afterward we went to Goodwill and she fell in love with a shirt. It was $2, but I thought I couldn't afford it. Her birthday was the next month, and I sent her 20 in a card. She died 3 days after her 30th birthday. When we picked up her things at her apartment, I saw the card with the 20 in it. I should have bought her the damn shirt.
I hate admitting this and probably wouldn't IRL. May 18, 2007. My now ex-husband offered to give our 16-month-old son his bath. My ex was always that person who claimed that is never going to happen when I would tell him not to leave the kids alone in the bath. I regret not giving Josh in the bath because those 5 minutes changed everyone's life forever.
Not taking my mom's terminal cancer more seriously when I was a teen and missing what would be one of her last birthdays because I was 15 and young and dumb and partying instead.
Not hugging my wife more often. She has passed away and I'll never have the chance again in this lifetime. If you have the chance to do something today that you're unsure of, please do it. Not coughing up the money for a 3D mammogram. Might have caught this shitty cancer earlier.
Not getting sober much sooner. We'll have 3 years in June 2023.
Being a coward. I dated my wife in grad school, but I had a drinking problem. After a few weeks she said it was either her or the alcohol, so I tried to white-knuckle it and inevitably failed. That was screw up number 1. She forgave me and stayed with me for love, but I could tell it hurt her that I didn't quit for good. I should have walked into awe then, 10 years ago. What would have happened if I had? I would have bought a ring and got down on one knee and proposed right then. She actually asked me to take her to Paris. It actually made sense as we were going to school in the UK. What an amazing opportunity that would have been. Proposing to her in Paris. Can't get more cliché than that, and for good reason. But I didn't take her, because that would have meant quitting the drinking and following my feelings. We ended up breaking up after graduation, but I was still in love with her and asked for her to take me back. It was pure coincidence that she was teaching English in South Korea, and could help me get a job there and start our life together, again. I invited her over to visit before I left for Korea and proposed right then. We got married in 2016, 2 years later. We now have a 3-year-old son. Why am I telling you all this? Because I fucked up. I put myself first and made life harder for everyone, including me. How much easier would it have been if I had just proposed then, in Paris, 10 years ago? How much more successful would we be right now? Would our son have a big sister to show him the way and to add a little more estrogen to the household? I'll never know. My wife is 40 now and I am getting a vasectomy next year. I am devoted to my wife and this family, but I could have done this a hell of a lot sooner. There was no guarantee I would ever see this woman again. It just so happened that she gave me a chance. Men don't do this. When you know you know. Get down on one knee and do it. Being such a people pleaser that I lose myself. I made everyone else's happiness my priority as I spiraled into depression. Until I was so miserable that my husband abandoning me was one of the best things that could have happened to me. I lost 7 years of my life not caring about me. I don't regret the marriage, it brought me my stepdaughters. But maybe if I would have cared more about what makes me happy too, I would have stood up for myself. A good friend of mine became an addict, and the last time he came over to our apartment he was wasted, and we had a newborn sons. My wife and I told him we didn't want him coming over like that anymore, and he overdosed shortly after that. My best friend and I grew apart later in life, and we really didn't get along anymore, and actually had some words. I always wanted to make peace with him, but he died suddenly and I never did. I think about them both a lot. Moral of the story: make sure the people you care about know that you care about them. You never know when they won't be around.
Starting smoking at 14, I finally gave up for good at 54. My lungs are fucked, I can't do anything without getting out of breath. If you smoke and it doesn't matter how long you have been smoking, please stop, please try and get some help, it's fucking horrible and I'm not joking, please stop smoking, please get some help. Agreeing to administer the Clotbuster drug TPA to my mom after she had a stroke. We got to the hospital quickly, and she and I knew there was supposedly this drug that could unclot a stroke if it was given soon after the stroke, but it had to be quick. Time pressure, plus an emergency room doctor who was not an expert in strokes, gave us the impression we had to do it now, so we agreed to use it, even with a 1 in 18 chance of death. Mom was the 1 in 18. Folks, when you're in the emergency room faced with a decision like this, wait for the expert to arrive to give you advice. Might have saved her life. I had to pull the plug a week later, and at her age, she could have easily lived another 10 years. I miss her.
Not having studied in a much farther away city. Or being a naive small-town dweller, who trusts in the non-existing good of people. When I was in rehab, a fellow patient was dealing with feelings similar to yours. They were discussing how they had a fight with their father right before he passed away and how he couldn't get over how that was his final words. The last thing his father remembered was fighting with him. The tech at the time said something I'll never forget. He said, "In moments of death, most people have their life flash before their eyes. They may think about their family and friends. Do you really think your dad was thinking about that random argument you had, or was he thinking about all the good memories? The birthdays and holidays and school recitals. I guarantee your father had nothing but good memories of you in his mind."
Adopting the mindset that I don't care about anything. It's helped me in many ways, like remaining calm in bad situations or dealing with trauma, but also has absolutely wrecked me at times when I needed to be focused and passionate to achieve my goals. I just recently began to make changes and sometimes it feels like it's too late. My advice to anyone who might read this: find your passion, use your emotions. Cry that shit out. When I was 22, I made some changes and started feeling emotions again after essentially being an empty shell for the past decade. I previously just thought I couldn't cry because I have chronically dry eyes, but that first cry in at least 6 years was like draining the poison from my body that had built up for my entire developmental life. Making that change can spark something in you and change everything. It's never easy or perfect to get rid of bad habit traits, but it's worth it.
There was no way for you to know he is going to die. We all say that kind of things sometimes. It is a part of human relationships. If he was able to speak with you, he would tell you the same thing. Just one sentence doesn't throw your entire relationship history with him. That was just a drop in the ocean. There is nothing to blame.
You should try to find the strength to forgive yourself. There's no life without regrets and tragedy. I am sorry for your misfortunes. One of my biggest regrets in life is being super tolerant in the past and lacking assertiveness and mental toughness. Being open-minded,
People used me, abused me, and I faced dark times.
which killed my tolerance. Now I am blunt and ain't taking shit from anyone. Another shitty regret is as kid being talkative and communicative with my stepfather who mentally and sexually abused me. If I was in introvert mode and giving him scarce contact, maybe I would have avoided being touched or mistreated. I ain't playing no victim. Life harshness doesn't discriminate.
Children are no safe from adversity. I wasn't careful at home and learned the hard way that my mother's taste in men sucks.
Not being with my parents when they died. Not fighting for what I want. I think in life you can be pushed into the direction society wants you to follow, like school, university, career, husband, kids, perfect life. When in reality I didn't want to go university but forced because my grades are perfect, and into a career I later hated and my health deteriorated because of this. The last thing I always say to my kids is, I love you, because that is one regret I do not want. I do that because I have enough regret in that department. Trying Bud Light, man, that stuff is bad.
Discovering porn. It took away most of my ambition to pursue a meaningful relationship with a woman. I haven't had a relationship longer than 6 months and I'm an almost 28-year-old man.
Not getting help sooner? My mother passed in 1999. My father drowned in his pool. 3 months later they were divorced and remarried. Anywho, can I simply say, Arrested Development? For many years, I repressed the incredible pain, raised a family, but I was dead inside. I finally went for help. Never ignore yourself.
Mine isn't as serious as some of these, but I wish I had taken my classes more seriously in high school. I got bad grades and only got into one college. I'm now successful in my field, but I wonder what options I would have had if only I had tried harder. One of mine is that I raised my daughters in an evangelical Christian home with an emphasis on purity culture, being a sinful human from the time of birth, and working to bring others into the fold. The incredible news is that our intellect and curiosity eventually brought the three of us out of all religious belief. It was a slow process, each of us having a different timeline. It is often said that as a believer you will experience a peace that passes all understanding. For me, it is only in these past few years as an agnostic atheist that actual peace has become a beautiful friend.
I'm sorry about your brother. I'd like to think that after someone passes away, their consciousness gets some insight as to the reality of things, and they know who really loved them. I was fighting with my sister the last time I saw her, but my mom made us hug and say we loved each other before we left for school that morning. We really didn't get along, but I saw the relationship my mom had with her sisters and I was trying to not be such an annoying little sister so we could be friends someday. My sister was sneaking out of the neighborhood across a busy road to fundraise for her school. I knew she wasn't allowed to and I knew it wasn't safe, but I didn't tattle on her even though I was angry at her because I wanted our relationship to get better. She died in a pedestrian accident. I wasn't the only person who knew, her best friend did also, but it is my biggest regret that I didn't tattle on her even though I was angry at her.
After being sexually abused when I was 45 years old and bottling it up until I was 51, now 55. Not telling anyone until being 51 and getting so angry at times. Falling out with great friends, family and partners. It fucked my life up for almost 5 decades. I was too embarrassed to tell anyone and was suicidal. Lost so many friends until I confided in a woman at work, and it changed my world. She thought I was coming on to her, but I needed to tell someone. Was hard to tell her as I'd never spoken about it before. She got me into therapy, and my partner was convinced I was having an affair with my work colleague. It just wasn't like that, though. Can honestly say, my work colleague is the reason that I am still alive. My partner was my first primary school girlfriend when we were like 7 years old. We got together when met randomly online in 2009. Think what I'm trying to say is I regret not speaking about what happened a long time ago. Life is good these days, but I still have massive bouts of depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts, but I'm still here. Everyone at my work knows about my problems and I'm never embarrassed or ashamed about what happened. but people that I work with who have problems easily talk to me, and I have managed to get 2 guys to get help before they done something that they shouldn't have. Both have told me they are still here, just because they confided I'm me, and I asked Ned to them and gave them advice and recommendations to help themselves. It makes me a little bit proud. I've no idea if that makes sense or not to anybody on here, but if you're having mental health issues, please don't be afraid to talk to somebody. You'd be amazed how many people will listen and help you. Never ever put anything like this online before. Not looking for karma, just a man who went through hell and still here. If I can do it, I'd like to think any man or woman can. At my age 22, I have no regrets as of yet.
I have a decent paying job, my own place, and some good understanding friends.
That I didn't become a plumber. They make bank and are always busy and can charge you whatever they want because we need water to our house.
Not taking better care of my body.
One time, when I was like 10, I got into a fight with my sister. In the heat of the moment, I said, "I don't love you anymore." I never meant it, but it just came out. I was angry. Like a year later, my sister came out as trans, making him my brother. Turns out he was terrified to tell me because he thought I really wouldn't love him anymore. I was heartbroken when he told me. I have always loved him, and that will never change. He now knows I love him and fully support him, and we have a great relationship. However, I wish I hadn't said that. I know I hurt him on a very deep level. I remember his face as if it was yesterday. He looked like I had punched him in the stomach. Edited to add, I also really regret not putting our dog down sooner. She was really sick and struggled for a few months. Both my parents had bad experiences in the past with vet euthanasia. So, they got the final say and she died naturally. My poor, sweet girl endured a lot more suffering than was necessary.
Not finishing something I tried to do when I was 20.
Absolutely bombing high school and taking nothing serious in my teens. Left myself a huge hole to dig out of as an adult. My father and I had an argument. 4 months later, he died of a massive heart attack and wasn't found for a few days. He was found next to a pile of alcohol bottles, meaning he relapsed with his alcoholism, and it was one of the things that finally drove that final stake. That memorial service was not very easy. My biggest regret was every mean thing I said during that argument. If I could take it back, I would.
Having a seizure. Yeah. I had no control over it, but I wouldn't have been forced to medically retire out of the army and would be a helicopter pilot right now. Now I'm just a civilian. I miss my army family. Airborne. Becoming a stay-at-home mom, relying on him for money. Now I want a divorce because I'm financially trapped. I can't afford to move out.
The one that got away.
Somewhat similar, not talking to my brother at all the week before he passed. Our family's really close, but he was working 2 jobs at the time and figuring out living alone at 19. I had work and school and am just bad at reaching out in general. I prefer talking in person, and we saw each other for dinner drinks every couple of weeks. I remember having a metal band pop up on a list of my music and really liking it. Distinctly thought I should bring it up next time I spoke to him, see if he likes the band. Cleaning up the apartment after his life support was ended, I found a big patch of that band that he had been planning to put on his jacket. Absolutely broke down again. I wish I'd done more to reach out to him. He used to never shut up, but I'd give anything to listen to him ramble on about random shit for 5 hours straight again.
Not experimenting and finding myself during my teenage years and early 20s. During that time I was undiagnosed with ASD, so I was just trying to mimic everyone else so I'd fit in. Masking is a bitch. I never got to just be myself without fear that people wouldn't like me. Now I'm in my mid-30s and only now just starting to discover myself thanks to a tremendous amount of therapy from a wonderful therapist.
From the ages of 19 to 32, almost every life choice I made was for the happiness of my wife. I made choices that completely contradicted my aspirations, my desires, and my goals. Only for her to leave me for a horrible lying pos of what could barely be called a man. Of course, if I hadn't done all that, I am sure I wouldn't have ended up with the incredible woman I'm with now.